Because, for me, once again, part of living life, and especially living life with spirituality as part and parcel to your life, means that we're always growing, we're always moving, we're always learning more about ourselves, about life, about the world, and that it's this, tremendous, horrible, beautiful mystery that we're all a part of. And this is one of the big, horrible, beautiful mysteries. Why bad things happen to good people.
When life throws a challenge at you, one thing is certain. To find a resolution for every issue, every problem, for everybody, there's more than one way. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of More Than One Way podcast. I'm Whitney Ross, and with me, as always, is Thom Rasnick.
Hey, Whitney.
Hey,
Hi,
Thom.
everybody.
How's everybody doing?
Well, I hope everybody's doing well.
Yeah, me too. I hope you're having a great day today.
Yeah, I'm having a great day so far.
Awesome. We're going to do something a little different today with our topic. Our topic was actually suggested by one of our listeners as something that we might want to talk about, and it's in the form of a question, which is kind of interesting. So we'll put that out there. The question that we received is, why do bad things happen to good people?
And there goes my day.
Yeah. Man, it's not an unfamiliar question, but boy, how do you tackle that?
Yeah, how do you tackle that? And it's been around for eons. It's been around forever. And people have talked about it and written about it. So obviously it's part of one of the mysteries of being alive. And I think in order for me to kind of wrap my head around it, and hopefully us to wrap our heads around this, I'm going to start in a relatively don't want to make it simplistic, but a place that where the bad thing isn't too bad. You know what I mean? The bad thing that happens isn't too bad. And when I was a kid, there were bumper stickers around, and this is the answer to why bad things happen to good people. There was a bumper sticker around, and it said, "Shit happens." And that was the answer.
There you go.
Right? So for some people, you could look at life and look at bad things that happen, and the answer is, shit happens. And that's about as far as I'm going to go with it. It answers the questions that they want answered. It helps them to make sense of the life that they're a part of, and then to just move forward in life. And I have to say, for many things, that might be a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Actually, I remember you had a story about that, didn't you?
I do. My sister, when she was getting married, she was living in South Carolina and her husband was in California. So they were planning their wedding kind of remotely. And they chose a location that was kind of halfway between our family and his family. It was in North Carolina. It's a beautiful area in western North Carolina where there's a really nice lake and there's a chapel right on the lake and just really ideal. And she was excited about the photos and people being able to come and stay. There were cabins and other places that people could come and really enjoy the environment. And so as times got closer and plans continued, it was time for the wedding, and I'm arriving with my parents, and we pull up, and it looks a little different than I remember the last time it looked when I was there. And it's like the water in the lake was lower, I guess, as we kind of pull up, we noticed. And then we came around the corner, and the entire lake was drained. There was no lake. And it wasn't just like an empty lake. It was like this mess, mud, garbage, fish bodies, smell right by the chapel. I mean, it was just like the most picturesque place you could imagine, like postcard, and somebody just taking a brown marker and just like scribbled all over it.
Oh, man.
And so I'm sitting there going, what is she going to do? What is going to happen?
Yeah, it's supposed to be her perfect day.
It's a perfect day, and you think about just all the preparation, everything you have in your mind of the image, and just, that's just not possible anymore. It's just not possible, And she had her moment where you could see it was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this has happened. But I got to give her credit because she at some point she just accepted there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
There's no way to refill the lake. We can't clean it. We can't do, and it's not really about the place anyway. It's about us, and we can still have our moment. And the photographer went back and kind of airbrushed out some of the lake and, did some things to kind of make the photos where you can't tell in the background. But it was one of those things where it's just, it just happened.
Yeah.
You drive up and it was like no warning, no anything, and you're just in it.
Yeah.
There you are. And, okay. Let's see what we can do. But, she handled it better than a lot of people would have. I give her credit, but it was one situation that reminded me when you were talking about the bumper sticker, and just one of those that it's like, it's a big deal, but it's not really a big deal in the grand scheme of things. It makes for a great story. We laugh about it all the time now.
Right. Yeah, so it's one of those things where nobody was hurt or
right.
nothing too bad. And that's a great example of, when something isn't too bad, perhaps that bumper sticker fits.
Yeah.
Perhaps that, and like I said, for some people, that fits in a lot of areas of life. And so one thing about our conversation on our More Than One Way podcast is we're not here to give anybody a definitive, especially about something like this. But I think we are here to talk about the different ways people have tried to go about dealing with this question, why do bad things happen to good people? Because there isn't just, for me anyway, there isn't just one definitive answer.
Mm-hmm.
And the wide variety of answers that we've had throughout the centuries are a result of people grappling with life, grappling with what's going on in life and what's happened. And so if life stays on that kind of place of, this was bad, but this isn't too bad, I could see perfectly well how the bumper sticker answer works.
Mm-hmm.
But then you might move a little further into it where maybe something a little worse happens.
Mm-hmm.
Something like a car accident.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was in college driving to go play flag football. I think flag football was like my college desire to say, if one wide receiver on the Florida State football team gets hurt, I'm there.
You're there.
I'm there. I'm the next one up.
You keep your visibility up.
That's
in case a coach was driving by.
Coaches, they're by. I know they're just scouting
the flag football fields.
So I was driving, and I'm almost positive this was my day. And it was a long line of cars. And just as an aside, I don't like to tailgate. I don't like to get on somebody's rear.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a little space in between, and everybody else was pretty much bumper to bumper. And I think the little space in between fooled a car or something, because she just came flying out of the side and just hit me on the side. And then that made another car hit me in the back, and on it went. So it ended up just blocking traffic, and most important thing, I didn't make it to my flag football practice.
What could have been?
What could have been?
Yeah.
As I talk about this is really bad. No. So nobody got hurt though.
Okay, good.
No, it was some inconvenience, but it was a little bit more than perhaps the bumper sticker. It was human error.
Oh, okay.
Okay, a human being made a mistake, and in that human being making a mistake, bad things happened.
Maybe easier to see a reason or kind of the cause and effect.
You can see the cause and the effect.
Yeah.
You can say, well, that's why that bad thing happened. I'm a good person. I'm driving. I got hit. But it was because of human error. And we live in a world where that happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where human error can cause bad things to happen to lots of people.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily malicious or anything like that.
Right.
It's not. At least I didn't sit there in the midst of all that traffic and go, "Why me?"
Right.
So we're still not to that point yet. I got to that point in my life one time when there was a hit and run.
Oh wow!
Where I was driving a car. We were driving through a parking lot of a nightclub kind of bar place. Mm-hmm. And this car just once again comes out of nowhere and just hits me and then just takes off and keeps going.
Wow.
And then I had to go home, and it was actually my mom's car. And I had to go home and say, yeah, this is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Now that was a little bit more, and it was a little bit, well, why in the world did that happen to me? And once again, it's not so catastrophic. Maybe if I had been put in the hospital, maybe if something, it wasn't so catastrophic that I had to ask the big why question, but it still was, man, this world, right?
Yeah. And it's almost like that each situation might answer that question in a different way.
Yes.
Depending on the feelings and emotions and the outcomes.
The feelings, the emotions, the outcomes, the damage, how close or far away we're all sitting here watching what we might call bad things happening in the world right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we can see it at any point in time. The floods that were just in Kentucky, the floods that are in Pakistan right now, the storms that are hitting in on and on and on it goes. But it's far enough away where maybe I'm still just not asking that kind of, Well, I think this listener was trying to get at this deeper question of why does this stuff, this hard, terrible stuff have to happen in life?
Trying to make sense.
Trying to make sense
of the world and how it works.
And how it works. And once again, a lot of this around car wrecks and things like that. I think because that's part of my life anyway, and I think it's our life. We're in cars a lot, driving a lot. So another level of the car wreck story is a friend told us about her father, and they'd all gone off on I think it was like a shopping trip to somewhere where it was a place. The city was far away from their town, and they had to make a day of it. And they'd spent the day doing all the stuff around shopping and eating and doing all that stuff. And it was getting late, and the guy had the choice of whether he was going to decide to stay the night there with them because they decided to spend the night because it was too late to drive home, or go on his own, drive back on his own. Well, he had something that he was supposed to do for his church the next day.
Okay.
And so he felt obligated to get back so that he could fulfill his church role. And as he was driving back, a drunk driver crossed the line and hit him, and it was a serious accident. And it put him in the hospital. And did damage to him, and enough damage where he was a pilot and a pilot in the Air Force that was a trainer. He had to stop doing that.
Wow.
And he was never able to do it again to that degree, to that place.
Yeah.
At that level, I should say. And that caused him a tremendous amount of discomfort. And okay, so now we're getting into a deeper place of why in the world would something like this happen to me? I'm driving home to do God's work, as it were. So he brings the whole God thing into this and has to deal with that.
On top of just the physical aspects of the results of the wreck.
Right, on top of all that. So he's got to deal now with, wait a minute. I went out of my way to do something that I think is the right thing for how I understand God. And this is what happens. And so when those kind of things happen, that really can send people into a deep place of questioning their life and their understanding of God and their worldview about everything.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's where he found himself. And that's a hard place to be. And that's where this question gets a little bit harder to answer. I don't know if, like I said, I don't think there's a definitive answer, but where he came to was essentially kind of asking the question of, if I do what I think I'm supposed to be the right thing, and I do this in the service of God, it looks like I won't be protected. that doesn't give me any sense of certainty that nothing bad is going to happen to me. And somehow or another, prior to this accident, he kind of seemed to think that was the bargain.
Yeah.
If and this is absolutely, positively no put down on the person, because this is a worldview, and this is a worldview that works as long as it works.
Well, and it's an especially prevalent American worldview, for sure.
Yes.
And just that whole idea of, if you're a good person and you do the right things, then you can expect good outcomes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And like I said, if you're a good person and you do the right things, you might be okay with the little stuff. Oh, okay, the lake was, okay, I can laugh that one off.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there was just a little fender bender here. Even a hit and run, and now I'm left with fixing the car.
Yeah.
Okay, even those, those three things. But when you get to this place,
right,
where it's, pretty severe physical damage, so much so that it disrupts life and changes the trajectory of life. Well, that's when that gets challenged. That's when,
right.
And it's a difficult place to be. And people have been in it, once again, all throughout history. It's how do I make sense of that something can happen to me and I have nothing to do, I have no control, in a sense.
Yeah. So I think, like with the story you just shared, and you talk about just being in that position of just the questions, and everything just kind of being untethered almost. When you think about that whole kind of almost a formula, I guess, that you're talking about with the idea we do good things, bad things won't happen to us, that kind of thing. We're almost raised with that in some way. As kids, it kind of seems to be that's part of what we learn as children.
Yeah.
To behave and expect good things and that kind of thing. But I guess there's situations where maybe we don't grow out of that.
Yeah, maybe not. And I think the thing about it is that it can be very helpful for children to see the world that way.
Sure.
It can help them to do the best that they're able to do, to help them to work towards something with all their strength, with all their skill. It can be a very helpful thing. It just stops being helpful when it doesn't fit anymore.
Yeah.
And when we try to make it fit, so you talked about coming in with answers.
Yeah.
So the worst thing somebody could do to somebody who gets in a car wreck like that and ends up in the hospital is to come in and say something along the lines of, well, God's testing you. Well, even if you believe that, okay, fair enough. Don't say it then.
Yeah.
Give him some space. Give him some time. I mean, he might not be in a place like that, or she might not be there yet. So if whatever my worldview is, it's not really fair of me to come in with answers into situations that aren't asking for answers yet, or certainly aren't asking for my answers yet. Because, some of the other answers have been things like God's testing you or God's punishing you.
Yeah.
That would be even worse to say to somebody who was going to the church and got hit by a drunk driver. That would really not. The whole God's punishing you is just not appropriate for me, I don't think, to say to anybody at any time.
Right.
If that's somebody's view, fine. And you can say, okay, well, but God's punishing me, then I have to work through that. That's fair enough. But it is not helpful.
Yeah.
To try to come in with my set answer when somebody's in a situation like that and is struggling with, how in the world could this have happened to me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's, I don't know. It's when you see someone else going through something, there's some discomfort for you as well.
Yeah.
Especially if it's somebody that you care about or somebody you love and you see them struggling. We want to try to help.
Yeah.
We want to try to think of what we might say that might make it better. What example do I have that I could share? And you just think about all those things that might come to mind, and that may not be the time for that.
No.
Yeah, maybe there isn't maybe there is, maybe there isn't a time for that.
No.
But
Well, I'm sorry, but there's a story, and I'm not going to get into the whole of the story.
Mhm.
That would be a whole nother podcast for us to really get into. But it's in the Bible, and it's the story of Job, and it tries to get at some of this. And to get at what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
the first part of the story, when Job's going through all the difficulty that he's going through, and he's in a really hard place,
Yeah.
really, really struggling. His friends come to see him, and and it says in the story, for the first 3 days, they just sit there in silence.
Oh, wow.
They just sit there with him. And I think when something that tragic happens, that is a beautiful and appropriate response.
Mm-hmm.
I just go, and I'm here with you. I have no answers for you. I have no judgment for you. I'm just here with you. And there's such power in that. And it's so hard to do.
Yeah.
Because there's a big, huge part of me that struggles, like you say, with the situation, that struggles with the silence, that struggles with the pain.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of the most powerful things, I think, that spiritual traditions pass on to us, to say, just be there. It's called being present, the
Mm-hmm.
ministry of presence. If you need a technical term for it, there it is.
Yeah.
And I could tell on the look on your face, you needed a technical term
Thank
for
you,
that.
Thom.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ministry of presence, just being there, just being with somebody and sitting with them so that they know that you love them, and they know that you care about them. Then maybe in time, based on the other person, they can start trying to talk about that, and then you can be there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
But it's a very powerful thing to do. Trust me on that one. It's a very powerful thing to do. Because that takes me into another story with this, so if we leave that story with, I thought the deal was if I did really good things all the time, only good things would happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we leave him with grappling with that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this next story moves into somebody who grapples with it and then comes to a particular place. And it's a story about a woman named Kate Bowler. And she's 35 years old. She's an associate professor of religion at Duke University. She was married to her high school sweetheart. And after a long kind of struggle, I guess you could say, fertility struggle, she and her husband had a child.
Mm-hmm.
So they had a little boy. And he was pushing about a year old. And for part of her job, for part of her studies, she'd been doing research on and studying megachurches, and in particular, this particular way to understand not only the gospel,
Mm-hmm.
but religion, but also the world. And it got tagged with the term prosperity gospel.
What does that mean?
So prosperity gospel is a mindset, is a worldview, is a theology. What word do you want to use to try to get at it?
Mm-hmm.
And it essentially is God really wants to bless you, and God wants to bless you with material goods.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell that God has blessed you, in a sense, by the more material goods that you get. And your part of the bargain is, if you're just good enough, if you just believe enough,
Mm-hmm.
and you do the right things, then God will bless you. And it falls right into the American thing that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And then it might add, like the American thing might be, good things happen to good people. They might add, only good things happen to good people.
Mm.
So if something bad happens, you did something.
There's something with the person.
That's right.
Off.
Right. So the woman, she'd been studying this. She'd been studying this, and she'd written a book called "Blessed," because that's a big word. Apparently it's become like a huge word.
Yeah.
But the initial term "blessed" from the prosperity gospel's perspective is just what I said.
Mm-hmm.
You know, here's your blessings. And
Yeah.
so you get the bigger house and you get the nicer car and you get the, right,
Mm-hmm.
and all that stuff. And actually it's very old. That goes way back, but it's got its own spin on it now in our world. And so she spent a great deal of time studying this. And like I said, had written this book called Blessed. And she had stomach pain. She had pains in her stomach. And so she had gone to the doctor and was sitting in her office one day and got a call from a PA. And the PA said, "You have stage 4 cancer. We need you to come into the hospital right now."
Ooh.
Yeah. Whew. So it just took the wind out of her.
Yeah.
You know, what do you do with that? Right? And so that set her on this trail. That set her on this journey. And what she found out was she had thought she was just an objective observer to this prosperity gospel.
Mm-hmm.
But what she found out was some of that had creeped into her own thinking.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably some of the American stuff, some of that. And it was just what we said, you know, she's been doing all the right things. Everything's going the way she was hoped. She had her perfect family. She had her perfect job.
Mm-hmm.
She'd written books. You know, she must have been on God's good list, right? And then this happens. And all that gets challenged. Right? All that, and people come in, like with Job, and come in with answers, like we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she said so many people would send her emails. She wrote an op-ed piece for the New York Times talking about this, and she got just thousands upon thousands of responses. And some of the responses were people almost begging her, if not demanding her, to accept their understanding of what happened to her.
Oh, wow.
You know, it's like, can't you see that this is why this has happened to you? You know, everything from, well, you got cancer, God gave you cancer so that you can go out and talk about it, to, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, you know, at the hospital, there'd be, once again, well-meaning people, and they'd say things. The one time she said they said something to her husband as he was walking into the hospital. The person said, well, you know, everything happens for a reason. And his response was, well, I'd love for you to tell me what the reason is.
Yeah.
And I don't think he was trying to be mean. He's probably just heard that a million times. Yeah. And he's trying to deal with this on a human level.
Right.
Right? So what in the world? And as she's gone through all that, she did a TED Talk to try to talk about it. And she says, essentially, I've come to the place where I have no answers for stuff like this. I have no definitive answer. And I know people want definitive answers. And I have none. She said, but what I can tell you is that in the midst of this horror and the pain of the surgeries and going through all the stuff that she's gone through with this cancer, underneath it all has been almost like this grounding of love. It's like moving in to this experience, moving in through this horrific experience, and sticking with the struggle, and not circumventing the struggle with easy answers and simple, what for this situation would be an easy answer, and to try to appease somebody else because of their discomfort. By sticking with that, somehow or another, she experienced a deep sense of beauty, if not peace. As if somehow or another, grappling with it, living in the struggle, activated the beauty and the peace. Not like cause and effect.
Okay.
But in this mysterious way that in the horror of it all, not only are you supported you're loved. And that somehow or another, what I just said is not just somebody telling me that, but I experience that. That's what I got from her talk.
Yeah.
So it was her deep experience, not somebody else telling her what is happening to her.
Mm-hmm.
No, I hope, I don't wish what's going on with her for anybody.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it's, once again, that it's cause and effect.
Right.
But I am saying in this mysterious way, her story rings true to me. It rings true in my life. Because I've had similar experiences. So it's not an answer. It doesn't answer the question, why do bad things happen to good people?
Mm-hmm.
Because in the end, only you can find your own answer. Because there's been lots.
Yeah. And depending on where you are and what you're going through, some of the different answers, the ways people have worked with it may fit at that time.
Right.
But
her answer at this point in time
mm-hmm.
to the person who wants the bumper sticker, probably not going to work too well.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make the bumper sticker person bad.
Right.
It just means they have not had the experience that has pushed them to the place where they have to ask questions like this at that kind of a level.
Yeah.
And to truth be told, most of us don't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most people don't.
So you had mentioned the story about Kate Bowler. How did you hear about her? How did you discover that?
Well, she's going to come and speak at Church Street United Methodist Church coming up in October. And somebody sent me a link to that.
Gotcha. Okay.
A link to her story, a link to her bio. And I actually DM'd her to try to see if she'd come and be on the podcast to talk about, once again, our central theme, which is there's more than one way to look at these, especially big things that go on in life.
Yeah.
And she has a lot to offer that through her own horrific yet beautiful story.
Yeah. Great. And we'll be sure and we'll put the information about her appearance that's coming up in the show notes, so that if you're interested in that or you'd like to hear her story in person, there are tickets required for that, but there's no cost. So you just let them know that you want to come and you can be a part of that event. That'll be Sunday, October the 2nd, I believe is the date of that. So definitely someone that has a pretty incredible story around this topic that we're talking about, and it's not concluded yet. It's an in progress story.
Yes, she's still going through it.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is, part of it, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, once again, part of living life, and especially living life with spirituality as part and parcel to your life, means that we're always growing, we're always moving, we're always learning more about ourselves, about life, about the world, and that it's this, tremendous, horrible, beautiful mystery that we're all a part of.
Yeah.
And this is one of the big, horrible, beautiful mysteries. Why bad things happen to good people.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like what you're kind of leading toward is the idea that the answer to that question is really going to be individual.
It really is.
I mean, it's there's not going to be an answer that fits for everyone or even a group. It's going to be something that may come from within through the struggle or through the experience, or the exploration of being in the middle of it.
Yes, it will. And depending on where you are is depending on which answer is going to kind of fit with how you understand life, God, yourself,
mm-hmm.
the world. No judgment. It's where you are.
Yeah.
That's what's going on in you. You wouldn't even, you probably, if you weren't somewhere beyond the bumper sticker, you wouldn't really even ask the question, probably.
Yeah,
because if the bumper, once again, if the bumper sticker works for you, in a way, it's a lot nicer because you just, you just move on, and then you just deal with it.
Yep.
And there's a lot of good in that. There's a lot of really good.
It's not a negative thing necessarily.
No, it's not. It's just, if something happens like what happened to Kate, to walk in and go, well, here's stuff happens.
Yeah.
That's not too great.
Doesn't really work there.
Doesn't work then.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Thom, for being willing to dig into this. And we thank you to the listener that suggested the topic. If you have a topic that you'd like for us to talk about or a question in mind, please reach out to us. We would love to have your feedback. And we're always looking for ways to connect with you. And that might be a great way to do that. So thanks for listening. And we hope you'll join us next time on More Than One Way.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the More Than One Way podcast, brought to you by the Center for Spiritual Practice in Knoxville, Tennessee. We really appreciate your time and would love to hear your feedback. You can reach us by emailing hello@morethanonewaypod.com, or you can connect with us on social media using the handle @morethanonewaypod. If you found this episode helpful, we hope that you'll share it with your friends, with your family, with people you work with all the people who you know. Thank you, and take care.